Good evening and welcome to the Villa Pod podcast. This is episode
39.
39. So
Yes.
next episode that we'll do will match our ages, unfortunately. But
Yes.
39 episodes,
I know.
that's
I know.
that's just it's
Brilliant, isn't it?
it's flown by.
Over 7,000 listens as well. Over 7,000. Must be up to about 30 countries now. I think we had like the Turks and Caicos Islands or something. I messaged you the other week, wasn't it?
How has your mom been able to go during a pandemic to all those countries? I mean, fair play to her. She must be double
Fair play.
jabbed.
I
She must
mean,
have COVID passport.
yeah. She's the only one who's written me a LinkedIn recommendation. So
He's been a lovely son. Yeah.
I'm scared. I can't put it out there. Like I've just left it in my inbox on
Have you?
my
How brilliant.
recommendation. I haven't published it because no one else has done one for me. I just think that would just be terrible.
That would just kill you. Listen,
thanks so much to my mum. I know she loves me, but I can't put that on LinkedIn.
I'll do one for you. Don't worry. So the season is getting closer. The transfer rumours are rife, and we'll talk about some of them later. I mean, there's loads to talk about, but before we get into that, we've had a few friendlies since we last spoke. One was the Forest one was just totally called off, wasn't it? Wasn't
Forest was called off? Yeah,
COVID,
we've had
Walsall game, Bristol City,
and Stoke in between them.
Yes, and Stoke in between.
Yeah.
So, who's impressed you? What have you thought from the?
Yeah,
from
it's
the
been a bit of a weird one, hasn't it? Because there's been players out for the Copa America.
Yeah.
In Luis and Martinez. There's been obviously the England internationals and John McGinn with Scotland. And there's been Traore with Burkina Faso, who had a bit of extra time off. So it's been a little bit bitty, if you like. And then there's been a lot of young players that have come in, and then one or two of the new signings. So yeah, it's been a bit of a funny one. What's pleasing to see is a lot of the young players coming in and just settling into that formation that we're playing.
Absolutely.
It's hard to read a lot into these friendlies, and I think maybe this one on Saturday that's coming up against Sevilla will be more like the first team.
Yeah.
Although I imagine there'll be a couple of other ones behind closed doors to get maybe Martinez, Grealish, hopefully.
A few more minutes.
Talk about up to speed. One or two other players. I think Morgan Sanson's coming back through. But obviously the first time we saw Buendia, and a couple of his passes against Walsall were fantastic. Wasn't quite as effective against Stoke, but I think he maybe had a little bit of a knock, and he didn't play against Bristol City. Watkins has looked pretty sharp. I've been quite impressed with Watkins. Scored a couple against Walsall. Obviously scored a nice little goal on Saturday. But yeah, the main one for me has been Philogene Bidace. I've been really impressed with him out wide. I think he did well in the first game against Walsall and did well on Saturday, and probably was the most impressive. What's impressed me the most is he's got that little bit of arrogance about him, and maybe he's put a thought into Smith's mind of obviously we'll talk about the Leon Bailey signing, but we've got looking to strengthen out wide. We've got Traore, we've got El Ghazi, we've got hopefully Bailey now. But I know a couple of those players are potentially having to go away for Cup of Nations. And someone else is missing. I can't remember what it is now. But we're gonna miss a couple of the wingers for various competitions. So it might be that he's playing himself into potentially being put into contention for a squad role. Certainly later on in the season when one or two of these players might be away, which he looks like he can compete. I don't know whether consistently he'd be able to do it. I'd maybe still like a bit more strength and depth, but he's certainly not done himself any harm in the performances.
I agree. I can't remember him getting any bench time. He might have towards the end of the season. He might have got one game.
He came on against Tottenham.
Oh,
Yeah, he came
yes,
on
he
against
did.
Tottenham with
Sorry.
Chukwuemeka. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a fine balance, isn't it? Because
Hmm.
I think we've been very busy over the last 12 months, snapping up a load of youngsters, and the lad from West Brom signed for us during the week, and there's got to be a point where they see some of these other players coming through, because otherwise, what's the point? You can have the best
Yeah,
under
exactly.
23 team in
Yeah,
the land, but if no one's getting first team games, so he's a balancing act, and I think it's going to be more so for Dean Smith this season than it was last season, because as we spoke, as you mentioned there, two of the players featured against Spurs, and they're pushing, and
hmm
the reality is it doesn't matter what age you are, if you're good enough, you're old enough, and
yeah,
I think we need to be in a position where we're giving opportunities to some of the under 23s, because A, it shows the people beneath them that there's a chance, but also B, if they're good enough, then that
throw him in. Yeah, yeah,
throw them in. And you're right, you're not going to get someone that can play a whole season, but one of the things over the last 39, 38 episodes that we've complained about is that we don't have the squad depth. And I get it,
mm,
sometimes you want recognizable faces, recognizable names, and you feel comfortable that on your bench, if you've got an Abraham, a Tammy Abraham, for example, he can come on and do something. But Tammy Abraham started somewhere, right? Watkins was a risk at some point when Villa signed him. So some of these youngsters, I think, need to start being given a bit of game time, a bit of responsibility, and also if they do well, it just creates competition for places. And there were times
yeah,
again last season where a few of our players probably weren't being pushed and therefore didn't give the performances that they should have given if they had half an eye on the bench thinking, God, they've got XYZ they can bring on to replace me with.
yeah,
But it's always an interesting one pre-season, is it? Certainly now with so many players that have had extended breaks. Even now, Douglas Luiz is still in the Olympics, so we
exactly.
don't have our full strength squad back in pre-season. But Mings and Jack were back on Sunday. John's back. Martinez was back. So we will probably see a clear indication of what our
Yeah.
first game of the season at Watford, what the team will look like. However, we could probably come up with it now. I think there's still a couple of question marks depending on signings, and we'll
Hmm.
discuss that now. Who might get a starting slot, but there's a lot of well, let's talk about the signings that we know about. So
Yeah.
you shared something with me earlier, and like most football fans, as soon as there's a signing, you jump on YouTube, or there's a sniff of someone having a medical, you jump on YouTube, and he's something else. Leon Bailey looks fantastic. I'm super excited about seeing him in a Villa shirt.
Yeah, man. Me can't wait for me, my Jamaican brethren to step foot on the pitch. You know what I'm saying, blood?
Is I, I, I don't know what you want me to do with that. we could
No, no.
probably
I'm
edit it
just,
out.
I'm just happy we've got a Jamaican international in our ranks. I know we had Daniel Johnston a long time ago as a
Yeah.
youngster, but yeah, it'll bring out a lot of Villa fans' Jamaican roots and stuff, which
Well,
would be good.
you know
Which would
what?
be
Like
good, but
the Birmingham has a large Jamaican community,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah,
therefore there's a lot of Birmingham residents that are Villa fans that have got
yeah.
ties
But
to Jamaica, whether it's their first, second,
absolutely,
third generation. I think it's wonderful. I think
yeah.
you're right. It will bring a certain difference to Villa Park. It's
We'll have Brazilian flags, Argentinian flags,
oh,
Burkina Faso flags, Jamaica flags. Now it'd be class. Yeah,
absolutely. I
yeah.
think yeah. Other than your attempt at the Jamaican accent, everything about Leon Bailey is wonderful.
But that being said, no, I think I knew a little bit about him, and he's obviously had a couple of years. He came through Genk. It's
Yes.
had a hell of a story, hell of a rise, and with him and his family to get to professional football, and then yeah. got a chance to buy a Leverkusen and has done very, very well over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Averages sort of 1 goal every 4. So I'd be looking for him to get, double figures in terms of goals, and also assists as well. He is exactly what we've been crying out for probably the last 2 or 3 years in terms of electric pace.
Yeah.
And he can get pace in behind, running like for the ball, but also pace running with the ball and being able to produce, skills to beat players, moves to beat players at high speed, which is an extremely difficult skill. So yeah, he's going to be a real weapon for us. What also I was very impressed with, I mean, not I can't say I've watched a lot of the Bundesliga, but having seen a lot of the highlights videos and the highlights reels that I'm sure you've looked at as well, is the speed of thought as well. It's not just like he runs in behind and then just blasts it, or doesn't quite know what to do with it. There's elements of already knowing what he wants to do
Yeah.
before he gets the ball, and he's putting a little crossing that maybe someone hasn't thought about before, and you think, what's he doing? But then it hits the player at the back post and they put it in. Or it's a calm finish, like sometimes that Traore does, where that
Oh
got
God,
particularly
yeah.
that
I
goal
was.
against West Brom, where
Yeah.
everyone's like, what is he doing? And then he's seen something that no one else has seen. And I think that's what Leon Bailey's got a little bit of. So, you can never have enough of those players. And
No.
if we're to we've hopefully got him. I think he's passed his medical. I think personal terms are agreed, so I think it's going to be announced at some point this week. But you've got him, you've got Buendia, you've got hopefully the man that we will speak about later. You've got Traore, you've got Watkins. What you want is weapons, don't you? And you don't want everything to go through one, even two players. You want 3 or 4 players that can hurt teams. When we've looked at the Man Uniteds, when they're not playing particularly well, but they've got 4 or 5 players that can win a
Yeah, they can
game for
turn
them.
it
You
and
look
do
at
something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You look at Liverpool with their front 3, and then Jota to come off the bench and things like that. You look at Leicester, even like with the weapons that they've got, like Vardy, Maddison, Tielemans, all those players. That's what you want. So it's excellent. And then obviously I'll obviously ask you for your opinions in a second, but to complement that, we've also signed a lot of the young players. The lads from West Bromwich Albion. I think he got like the young player of the year last
Did you?
season, and then there's
He got some
Finn
Premier League
Azaz as
minutes as
well.
well.
Yeah, and there's Finn Azaz, I think, who's
Yeah.
a bit different to what we've signed. I think he's 20 years old, but was on loan at loan at Morecambe last season and got 35 games or something like that. He's going
Okay.
straight on loan to Newport, so he's maybe signed with a view to, can we get something out of him quickly, or can you generate some money, like if he does well,
Yeah,
and
just
sell him
turn
off
it
for a
around quickly.
transfer fee.
I
But
think
yeah, it's great. It's great.
so. To discuss our options, yeah, I think that Leon Bailey, he's just waiting for the ink to dry. You look now at real competition for places. You look now at someone that all of those players can't start, right. You know,
Mm.
I think Watkins will continue to be the main man. I'd be very surprised if we signed Tammy Abraham. I think he'll give Wesley the opportunity. I think maybe he's going to have to let Keenan Davis go out on loan. But there's also talk from some of the interviews I've heard, Leon Bailey can operate as a forward if need be.
Yeah, I've seen. You look at some of the clips and you see like movements inside, certainly from cutting in, like diagonal runs. But there's also elements where he's played in the middle, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll see a bit more fluidity in terms of movement.
Yeah, and Watkins has it in his locker to play out wide as well. But should a situation arise where Watkins gets injured, or you've got someone in Leon Bailey that isn't that isn't afraid to play in that central role. It's just exciting because I think
Mm.
even at the start of last season there was quite a number of games where Jack was nullified because 2 players were put on him. But if there's players you mentioned there, all right, put 2 players on him. Buendia will do something, Bailey will do something, Traore will do something. I think Trezeguet's days are numbered, and if he wasn't injured, I think he'd be on his way out. And there's talks that El Ghazi might. I think Roma are looking at El Ghazi, but
Yeah.
I think he did enough last season to warrant a place
Oh
in the
yeah,
squad. I
yeah,
think he's a fantastic squad player for
yeah.
us.
there's no point in signing a Bailey and then selling El Ghazi, because
No.
what happens if one of them gets injured? You're back to square one.
Yeah.
So you want to keep those players because we didn't have the weapons off the bench before. And this, when I'm talking about Philogene Bidace, potentially he's one who can knock on the door a bit and be potentially used, who maybe they thought, well, we'll send him out on loan, but now they're thinking, hang on a minute, he's stepped into the first team in
Yeah.
pre-season, albeit it's pre-season, but has kind of looks like one of the main players almost. So maybe he's given them something to think about. But what's also impressed me is that we've not only stepped up the quality of signings in terms of the young players. When you look at like the Vasilevs of this world and one or two others 2 years ago that were kind of knocking on the door for the first team, and now you're looking at the likes of Chukwuemeka, you're
Yeah.
looking at Kane Kester, who's gone on loan to Swindon, but Louis Barry, these other players that we're signing, they're just a different level of player. Like that,
Yeah.
there's a lad called Ruben Shakpoke that we signed start of last season that was broken all records in youth level at scoring goals, but got injured just before the start of last season. I expect him to come through and do something big in the under 23s this season. So there's loads. The level of player that we sign at youngster level is improved no end, but also the level of player that we're signing now is like a Europa League level, or like a Europa League or challenging level. Like Morgan Sanson has
Yeah.
played
Yeah. Champions League
Europa
football.
League,
Yeah.
Champions League. Leon Bailey has played Europa League. You know, hopefully, I'm not a huge fan of him, but James Ward-Prowse has obviously got qualities. If we
Yeah.
could sign someone like him, one or two others that have been mentioned. So it's just a different level of player that we're signing now, and it's so exciting, like you say.
It is. There's some players will come with us, and some players will outgrow them. And these players that we're talking about, well, they're the players that we need to get to the next stage. One of the players that we haven't mentioned, one of the youngsters that I was impressed with, and I saw him, Brad Young. I know he came on at the end of the Bristol City game. I thought he was. Everyone was raving about Louis Barry, but Brad Young pushed Louis Barry out wide. I
Yeah,
thought he was a real bruiser. Like he
yeah,
looked, he's filled out. He's got a bit of muscle. I thought he had a good touch. I'd like to see him in and around the first team a little bit next season. And yeah, he got a few minutes in pre-season. But you're right that they're players, and also having them training with our youngsters will only make the youngsters better. It's if you're a youngster coming through at the Villa and you're training with, I don't know, I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the Villa players that played for us over the last few years, but we've raised the bar, so therefore
well,
those youngsters that are coming
exactly.
through are looking now at a higher bar. They've got to do more to break in. They've got to do more
Yeah,
to replace someone in the first 11.
yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the likes of Cash, Target, Martinez, Ashley Young, who's come in, who's got
Yep.
such experience. Buendia now, even those players like McGinn and Al Ghazi and Louise and Nakamba have really got to step up their game to kind of keep in and around that first team. And then you look at like Konza, who is just going to get better and better. I mean, I
Yep.
didn't mention him from Saturday, but he just plays the game like now at like, I don't know, it's just like third gear, and he's just one of
He
the best
cruises, doesn't he?
defenders.
Yeah, he
Like he
cruises.
just he just reads the game so well. I know, as I say, I know you can't read too much into friendlies. You can't get too down if like in
Yeah,
terms of a defeat. I mean, I was watching like Arsenal fan TV a bit yesterday, and like they're going crazy over like getting beaten off Chelsea in a pre-season friendly. It's
I know,
like
Champions League winners.
can't
Yeah,
like calm down.
I know.
Like you're making like 11 subs after like 60 minutes. It's like it's
It's not real
it's a
football.
fitness exercise, and it's about team shape, and it's about building relationships with certain players on the pitch. And a lot of it is also about how you can integrate the young players into the squad. Like
Of
that's
course.
essentially what pre-season games are all about. The lower levels, the lower leagues you go down as well, you end up with like 3 or 4 trialists at every game, and
Well, you got a
they're
few
just
games at
out to
Garthwaite,
try and
didn't you?
impress. Yeah, yeah.
Put
A
yourself on a few
trialist,
times,
B
didn't you?
trialist. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, as I say, the point is it's we got beat off Stoke, which is what it is. You can go through pre-seasons and win every single game and be absolutely brilliant, and then go
Yeah,
into the start of the season and lose,
fall apart. Yeah.
and then vice versa. You can lose every game in pre-season and start the season on absolute fire. So it's going to be it's gonna be a strange start to the season this year because the teams that have had a lot of players in like international football, I can't imagine many of those guys starting the first game of
No.
the season.
It's been a long old summer for a
Yeah.
number of players, and what has interested me during the pre-season is there's been no discussion about a defensive midfielder, and
Mm,
I've read a few reports where it looks like Nakamba might, he's still going to be Lewis and McGinn, but Lewis won't be back till probably fourth game of the season. He'll be ready to go. So you're probably looking at Nakamba and McGinn.
mm,
Whether I don't know, like we spoke about before, I think you lose a lot of McGinn's strengths as a football player by having him in a defensive position. And I don't think you necessarily need two holding midfielders. I could see it
no.
maybe a Nakamba playing at the bottom of a triangle that includes a James Ward-Prowse and a McGinn perhaps.
Yeah.
Or I don't look, only Dean Smith will know what he's
Yeah, and
thinking at the moment. But
sometimes as well, it's about if you've got weapons to use up front, then that stops the other team from putting pressure on you too much. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
kind of means
absolutely.
that you don't necessarily have the overloads in midfield too much, and you can stamp your authority a bit more on the game. Sometimes when we started a game with El Ghazi and Traore, although their output's great in terms of goals, they don't get involved in the game as
No.
much. So therefore, those fullbacks can risk it a bit more, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah.
put more pressure onto our midfield. So yeah, if we've got, I don't know, if a Bailey can get up to speed, we've definitely got Buendia up to speed. If Jack, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, if you've got players like that, then Nakamba in that holding midfield role is quite a real good option because he gets about the pitch really well and he does allow McGinn to kind of push forward a bit more. But I'd still like it. I'd still love a defensive midfielder. I don't know which one. I mean, I was going through like saying I really want like a big, strong presence in central midfield, and someone was like Bissouma, and I was like, he's too small for me. And then they were like, oh, he's 6 foot, and I was like, what about the Decore at Everton? And then I was looking on Wikipedia, and he was 6 foot, and I thought, what about Ndidi? And there's a Wikipedia, he was
He was
6 foot,
six.
and I was like, what is it with all these players who look like 6'5", but they're
Yeah, yeah.
6 foot? I was like, just someone sign a giant of a central midfielder somewhere. There must be one somewhere. I don't know where they are, but there has to be one somewhere.
But I don't think he's going to get one. I don't think.
No,
I don't think
we'd
he
have
will.
probably had it already now, wouldn't we? So unless there's going to be a last minute, sometimes they keep the cards close to the chest with regards because the transfer window doesn't close until September 3rd. So you've
Yeah.
played 3 or 4 games. What about if one of your big names gets injured and then you've got to go into the transfer market? There's no point doing all your dough
Oh yeah,
at the start of the
early
season.
doors. Early, I
Yeah,
get it, but I don't know. I think the points you made there about some of the players that perhaps won't be starters, like an El Ghazi, for example. You don't need to defend if you've got the ball.
mm.
If you've got a better quality of player that can improve almost how you defend as a team by a couple of percent, it reduces the requirement of um, well, in your mind, a 6'5" central midfielder that's really 6 foot. But I don't know. Listen, I think Nakamba got a bit of bad press last season, and I think everyone expected him to mess up, and he put some brilliant performances in. I
He
don't
did.
think I don't think he's ever going to steal the headlines, but you don't want that from a defensive midfielder. You
No.
just want someone that's happy to do the dirty work. Right. We've been talking now for maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and we keep saying we'll get to this point later. I think now is the time to get to this point. It's like the bloody okey cokey at the moment with Jack Grealish. I'll give you a perfect example of what happened yesterday. So I get a message from one of my friends. Oh, he's at a football game with his son's team, and someone knows someone in Villa, and Jack's staying. Brilliant. He's signing for the Villa on Monday. Brilliant. I then go to a kid's party, and one of the dads that I'm chatting to, his mate's an agent. So he goes, right, let me drop a text. And he sends a text over, and about 10 minutes later, we get a message back saying 95% going to Man City. And it's just like, I don't know if I'm coming or going with it.
Yeah.
My head says he's gone. My heart says he's staying.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think what's telling is that there's been no official word from either club or from the player or from these agent. The only thing we've had is that allegedly there's been an official £100 million bid. So to me, all parties and Villa being the main one are in the box seat here.
Mm,
So Villa have 100 million allegedly on the table, right? He's on a 4-year contract
yeah.
already. They've potentially offered him a new deal, okay? And they also don't have to sell. They can reject the bid. So they can go out and reject that bid. So sorry, Villa hold all of the cards, hold those cards here, because if they can reject the bid, so that would then force Jack's hand to say, I
I
want to
got. Yeah.
leave. Yeah. So therefore, then Villa can go, look, we've put him a 200. No, they can say anything. They could say they offered him 500,000 and he turned it down and decided to go to Man City. They can put that out in the press. They can say that they offered him anything. That would then force Grealish's hand to say he wants to leave, which would then mean that he's fell out of love and he's kind of let the club down and all that press about him, leaving his boyhood club.
Yeah.
So the club have got in a great position. Grealish in a great position because he's, other than that side of things, if he's then forced his hand to have to leave, but if he then decides to stay, he's got a guaranteed, I don't know, double your money deal or 150 grand extra on a week on his deal. He's then an absolute club legend, and then it just prolongs the saga on for another season
Of
or
course it
18
does. Yeah.
months or
It's
whatever.
yeah.
And he's in a no lose situation there. Man City are just right. We've just took a pin out of a grenade and we've just thrown it, and we'll see what happens. Like they're not going to lose anything by just seeing what happens. They're going to see if the bid gets rejected by Villa, or they're going to see if Jack Grealish wants to leave.
Once.
So nobody is really saying anything, and nobody is really doing anything. And I think Villa have a lot of cards in this game because, as I say, they can reject the bid. They don't have to accept it at all because he's got another 3.5 years on his deal. They've already offered him another deal, and it's testing Grealish's mettle as to whether he's big enough and ugly enough to say, I actually want to leave and I'm going to leave my boyhood club. In which case, Villa can just go to town with the press.
You listen. I don't think Villa will do that. I don't think Villa will go to town and say Jack Grealish pushed a move through because I just think he's done.
Fergie did it with Rooney.
Yeah, but yeah, but I just think like
I would do it. That's all you need to do. That is the game. That's the game. You've got to put the ball in his court.
I know, but I just don't see what Villa gain by them making out that Jack Grealish is an arsehole. Like, I think it's just sour grapes, and I'd like to think that the club wouldn't do it. And I know it's been done before, and I know that you would do it. You wouldn't do it about Leon Bailey, though, would you? Not now,
No,
but
no chance.
but and I understand that's Villa can go if you want to leave. You got to force the move. I think Villa there's some gentleman's agreement where they've gone, listen, if 100 million comes in, we won't stand in your way. We'll tell you what we want to do. We'll tell you about this project that you bought into only 12 months ago. Nothing's changed. If anything, we're sticking to our side of the bargain, bringing in a Leon Bailey, bringing in a Buendia. Like we're spending money that starts, deals that start in the threes rather than the teens. And I think what has spoken volumes today is that Jack Grealish has come in and got on with his business, whereas the same
Yeah,
about
that's
Harry
great. Yeah,
Kane. Now,
yeah.
whether Jack Grealish again, it's a PR publicity stunt in that look, toe the line, have the chat, tell them you want to leave, they'll let you go. I don't know. I've read quite a lot about, and I will not be able to pronounce his name correctly, but Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Milwaukee
Yes,
Bucks guy, right?
Mercury, yeah,
We'll call
yeah,
him Giannis, right? And he
yeah.
was in a similar position, and Wes Edens gave him and Wes Edens apparently has flown in to have a chat with Jack Grealish, and he's built a legacy around this guy. And I was reading some of the figures that the salary that he's got, it's just like unbelievable. And he's now 26-year-old basketball player that's gone and won, the NBA title. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wes Edens flew him in with him, and to say to Jack Grealish, listen, this is what they've done for me.
Yeah,
This is the kind of people that
yeah.
you're dealing with here. It's a tricky one. I've heard some Villa fans start putting the boot in him a little bit. Look, if Jack Grealish goes to Man City, for me, he's a Villa legend. He's the best player I've ever
Oh
seen.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
think
man.
he's done more than enough.
Yeah, you can't look, man. It's Man City, and you've got to take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Like this is like I've said there. There's three parts. There's three kind of there's Man City, there's Villa, there's Grealish. You take the emotion out of it, and you think about a business deal, and you think about what's better for you as a player, what's going to be better for you
Yeah.
in your career, because it is a job. At the end of the day, it is a job. Now,
It's not though, is it?
some
It's not a job if you're talking about Jack Grealish and Aston Villa.
I'm
Like
saying
that.
take the emotion out of
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Obviously, yes, Jack is a slightly more unique case, in similar to the Steven Gerrard situation,
Yeah.
similar to Ryan Giggs. Obviously came through as a youngster at United, or Alan Shearer at Newcastle. That kind of thing where they're
Affiliation between player
yes,
and club. Yeah.
of course, but at the same time, it is still a job. So you've got to think about, okay, I can stay with Villa and I can talk about this project and all this stuff till the cows come home. But we already know about projects.
Mm,
Essentially it's just fluffy bollocks, really, because
yeah.
if Dean Smith loses the first 6 games of the season, then
Oh, he's
it's
out.
going to
Yeah.
really test, really going to test the project, and then he could be out. So then you're starting a brand new project. So he's got to think about that, as well as you know we can talk about, yes, we want to aim for getting Europa League, we want to aim for a trophy, we want to aim for this, but Villa could go another 2, 3, 4 years and not win anything. You know, if he goes to Man City, yes, he might not play every game, but he's not 100. He never 100% guaranteed anything in life, but he's certainly got a damn sight better chance of winning a trophy at Man City than he has at Villa, and he's also guaranteed to get into the Champions League, and get
But
Champions League football. I agree. You can say, what would you be more satisfied with? Winning a title with Villa would obviously, or winning even a trophy with Villa would probably trump whatever you could potentially win with Man City. But yeah, there's still that chance that you're not going to do it.
I get it. It's a really tricky predicament to be in. And I read an interview earlier today with Gareth Barry, and the headline was that he feels sorry for Jack Grealish. And first of all, you think, well, how can you feel sorry for someone? But if you take the millions of pounds out of it, it's still it's still a difficult decision that he's been given. Now,
Mhm.
whether, as you say, whether Man City have just thrown that grenade in and just thought, right, brilliant, we'll let that fester for a bit and we'll come back next season for him. We've already shown our intention. You don't know. And you look at what Man City are doing at the moment, and someone like Grealish won't play it every game. But then as a football player, that's not your mentality anyway. You're going into it thinking, I'm brilliant. I'm going to
Mhm.
break myself into that team. But then also when you talk about mentality, there's a lot to be said for players that play off confidence. Week in, week out, Jack Grealish wants to play every single minute. If he doesn't, and I'm not suggesting that he wouldn't at Man City, but there's a very good chance that he wouldn't. What impact does that have on him as a player? So
Mhm.
do you get the Jack Grealish that Aston Villa have got on Man City? Probably not. But and we saw how Jack was treated at the Euros. He's not a bit part player.
No.
He needs minutes on the pitch. Okay, he put in uh, he changed the game against Germany, but other than that, there wasn't really much that you could hang your hat on about Jack Grealish's performances in other
No,
games.
he didn't get enough time, did he? He was kind of like the special teams player, which is not what he wants to be, and not.
No,
And that'll form part of the decision as well. Like you say, he doesn't want to be used for Carabao Cup and FA Cup and come on for 15 minutes at the end of a Champions League group game. He doesn't
oh
want to
God, no,
do
no.
that, and he's not gonna. He'll back himself to get in the first team, but it might be, sometimes Pep with certain players as well, he wants them to like 6 months to study how the team plays, and
Mm.
they don't get used very much. And it's like, is he going to be that patient? Is he going to study the game that much to kind of
Well,
get himself into Pep's team? And again, that's something that he'll have to think about. Like you say, I don't know. There's obviously been, like, pictures and videos of him having conversations with Johan Langer at the training camp and all this sort of stuff today, and kind of everyone thinking what's been said, and there's a little smile here and a smile there, but they could be just talking about nothing.
could talk about Mykonos.
These conversations that are done on the training pitch will be nothing. There'll be absolutely nothing. And to be honest, Jack probably won't. Jack might get they might ask him, like, what do you want to do, and he might just turn around and say, look, I want you to, like, just speak to my agent. I'm happy
Yeah.
either way. I don't know. Like, or Dean Smith might be like, look, your final decision's with you, son. Like, I don't know, but it certainly won't be done on the training pitch.
No, of
I
course it
know
won't.
that.
No, no,
So
yeah, a 10-minute chat,
yeah,
over a drinks break
yeah,
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 but it's a really tricky one, and I know we've spoken all season about the the scenario of Jack Grealish leaving, and let's just imagine now tomorrow morning news. There's a bit more about a few Olympic golds, and then Jack Grealish agrees to go to Man City. I it's really tricky because we were poor without him towards the end of the
mm,
season when he was injured, but we were poor with him after Christmas as well. We were rubbish after Christmas for whatever reason. After that COVID break, when Jack was in the team, we were still dropping points. I think we're better equipped now once you get in a Leon Bailey and a Buendia to live without him.
yeah,
100 million will go a long way to strengthen some of the positions. We could buy maybe 3 6-foot central midfielders for that.
yeah.
But the you know the same emotion that he will have towards Villa fans, I think Villa fans have towards him. Like, everyone sees that attachment. Like, it's almost like, I don't know about you, but when he came on for his England cap, I was like a proud father.
Oh, it's yeah, it's so hard to explain. Like, in terms of like, it's like a love that I've got for him. Like, I can't put it any other way. Like, he's a joy. He's pure football in my
Mm.
in my opinion. Like, he's everything that football embodies. Like, he takes the ball. It's like the ball is an extension to him. He plays the game in a style with his own way. He plays the game with a smile on his
He's
face.
got a swagger.
He takes responsibility. He likes receiving the ball under pressure. Like, he's a throwback. He's everything that embodies football. Like,
And
he defines football. And to have him, who's come through the club from age 8 years old, he supports the club. He's he's been through ups and downs. He
mm,
come down to the championship, and at first he wasn't firing, and then he kind of grew in the championship. John Terry got a hold of him and said, look, you can be a real legend at this club if you sort yourself out. And then, you've seen that journey, like the playoff final where we didn't go up, and then, the next season where it was a bit of a dip and he got his injury, and then he came back with a 10-game run. Like, everything, it's almost like a film. Like, it
yeah,
kept us up. Like,
we've all lived it with him.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can say that there's probably a crossroads here. Like, there's his career that could go on to whatever level he wants to go at with another club and win trophies, or there's that other path where he could do it. He could do it with Villa, and there's that risk that it doesn't happen in terms of the trophies. But if it does happen, then obviously it'll be a club legend anyway, and this announcement would be amazing. But just imagine the
But he
legendary
like
status
he did
that
it.
he would get if he brought something.
But
Yeah.
he's front and center of that story. The Man City
100%.
story is like
Yeah,
co-starring Jack
yeah,
Grealish.
he's a part of a huge, I don't know, juggernaut of world stars,
But it's
So
interesting, isn't it?
yeah,
You look at, and I'm not suggesting that. Oh, look, I'm sure we could probably. Okay, we can't compete with Man City financially, but we've got a fair few quid in our club. You look at Yaya Toure. He embodied what Man City, that growth of Man City from a bit part, nearly their team. He was there for what, 8-10 years.
yeah.
Silva was the same. Who else? Company was the same. Like, there's
Aguero
players, yeah,
just come to the
Aguero,
end of it. Yeah.
that they've got a hold of, and they've gone, right. You're part of our culture. We're not letting you go anywhere. We're going to build our whole dynasty around you. That's what you can only dream as a Villa fan, and that's the journey that Villa are starting.
Mm.
It's such a big job that we've got to keep him. Whoever's responsible for it, whoever sat around that board table, they need to get an early night tonight, because they need to win their A game tomorrow. Because I look at those players that I've mentioned, people that have become Man City legends, that were almost like the pillars of the success. For me, Jack's probably Martinez now, Konza, Mings maybe, Jack Grealish, perhaps Watkins will become that. They're 3 or 4 or 5 pillars that we can build our success around. That we're introducing some exciting players. They might work out, they might not. But yeah, I just don't know. Like I said at the start, it's like the Okie
Right.
Dokie. There'll be
Hand on
something.
heart. Hand on heart. Finish this off because we could talk about it all night. But hand on heart. Stay or go.
It doesn't matter what I think, though, does it?
Just well, it does. It does. I want your opinion.
Okay,
What do you think?
I think he's going to stay and we're going to win the league. No,
You're not saying what year.
Yeah, or what league. I think for all the reasons that we've discussed, the attachment, I think his whole life is Aston Villa. And you mentioned Steven Gerrard earlier. None of the players we've discussed left. They stayed. Your Giggs, okay, Shearer got to Newcastle a bit later on in his career, but I don't
he
think
could have gone to Man United, couldn't he?
well,
And
yeah,
chose Newcastle.
yeah, he could have. I can't think of any other player in recent times other than Steven Gerrard that has had an affiliation to a club like Jack has got to Villa. And I think, like, if look, don't get me wrong, football players are business people, right? They will go. They're not necessarily mercenaries, but they've got to look after themselves. They've got to be selfish. But this kid's whole life is Aston Villa. His mates, his family, like everyone's going to be in his ear. His old man will be saying, "Listen, clearly do whatever's right for you, but son, you got a chance to have the key to the better half of the city here." And I just feel that if it was at the end of last season, so the season before last, and he keeps us up, go out. Like you're surrounded by some bang average players on that West Ham game. Like, you're better than all of those people. He's still our superstar player, but we're actually bringing in people that should excite him.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. No, I think I'm leaning towards the stay. I think there's I don't know how they're doing it, but in his head, if he's going through pros and cons for everything that we've just said there, even the pros of a trophy, with playing, again with playing under Pep, playing with like other stars, I still think that there's more pros to staying with Villa.
Yeah, for any other player,
Yeah,
I'd say you go to
but
Man
I
City.
think as well that we are on the cusp of building something really big and really special. Like I do, for the first time in, I don't even know. I don't even know if I felt this with the O'Neill years, because I always felt there was like a ceiling, there was a limit to
Yeah,
like what we could spend and who we could get, and we could never quite get over that line or that next signing or whatever that we could get. Whereas this time now we've got like the third richest owners in the Premier League. There's Wes Edens, who has worked on this project with the NBA. I've saying the word project, but has won the NBA championship, which is, other than the NFL, is the biggest sport in America. And he knows what he's doing. Like, these guys, when they talk, they're proven. They've done it. They
yeah.
know what it takes. You listen. If they're gonna say, they don't come billionaires for like because they just say something and then it doesn't happen. Like, it happens. They make it happen. So I think, if he is, whether it be over a Zoom call or whether it be face to face, when these guys will talk to Jack, he'll listen to it, and
He
they'll
will
put their
listen to
money
it
where their mouth is.
because they will have told him things that they've followed through on. I mean, talking about central midfielders, this Giannis is 6'11". So I think if anything, he could probably do a
Well,
job in the middle of the park.
yeah, exactly. He's done it in the NBA. Why not come and be Villa's destroyer in central midfield? But yeah, I do. I think I'll be happy for him in terms of, like, it'll be a hell of a decision to make, and it will obviously further his career. I'll obviously be gutted for us as a club. and it would mean that we'd have to kind of change the way that we play and you know re sort of vamp the way that we play. Obviously, it would mean that we were able to sign more players, but
Yeah.
he's irreplaceable in terms of
Yeah,
his
I
ability and what he can do. You know, that's
I
why we'd have
agree.
to change exactly how we play. But I'm still quietly confident that we keep him.
Right. Well, I'll take that then, and I'll stick that in the bank. Listen, as always, it's been a pleasure. Next time we speak, we'll know more about this Jack Grealish saga, um, and there'll hopefully be, well, Leon Bailey will definitely be confirmed. There might be a couple of the names in the mix, but yeah, but
Yeah, we'll see. And James Ward-Prowse isn't going away.
no,
I think
no,
there's still little rumours of Dwight McNeil. There's the Alvarez still doing the rounds as well. So yeah, we'll see. I think there'll be one or two outs as well. You know,
I
Conor
think so. Yeah,
Horahan, one or two others maybe as well. Obviously, Kane Kester-Hayden's gone on loan to Swindon, which is a really good move for him. And there'll be other young lads who'll go out. I think Seb Revan went out on loan last
to
week as well.
Grimsby, was he
Yes,
Grimsby?
yes, I think so. Grimsby. So great experience for those guys. But
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. It's
I just want to see that. I just want to see that that picture.
all I want to
Sign the
see.
con.
I just want.
Tweet Aston Villa. Yeah,
That's all I want.
my
It's
club, my
my,
home.
yeah, done.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
club, my city. Listen, and let's hope we can celebrate that news on the next podcast. But for now, from me, Richard Bartlett.
And me, Richard Sutherland.
Keep being Villa. Thanks for listening. Good night.
Night, everyone.